Imagine this. You're standing in a crowded room, maybe at a party or even just scrolling through your phone, and you notice her. She's magnetic, not because she's the most beautiful woman there, but because of how effortlessly she draws people in. And you, standing there, can't help but feel that familiar urge, the desire to impress her, to say the right thing, to win her over. But here's the brutal truth that most men never want to admit. The moment you start chasing, the moment you start bending yourself to get her attention, you've already lost. Because women don't fight for men who give everything away. They fight for men who make them earn it. Some women thrive on the fact that most men crumble the second they feel attraction. They'll test you, not by asking directly, but by pulling back, by ignoring your messages, by acting disinterested even when they're not. Why? Because they're measuring you. They're checking if you'll lose your frame, if you'll fold under the pressure of silence. And when you do, when you double text, when you beg for clarity, when you suddenly become overly available, you've just told her everything she needs to know. That your validation comes cheaper than hers. That you're willing to fight for her while she doesn't have to lift a finger. But let me flip that script for you. Imagine you didn't chase. Imagine you didn't flinch when she pulled back. Imagine you stood firm, comfortable in your own presence as if you were the prize. Because you are. That's when everything changes. Suddenly, she's the one staring at her phone, wondering why you haven't replied yet. Suddenly, she's replaying your last conversation in her mind, looking for clues. That's when the tables turn, because women are wired to chase what they can't easily pin down. It's not manipulation, it's biology. Scarcity creates value. And in dating, just like in life, people fight hardest for what's rare. You see, most men think they win women over by proving how much they care, how much they can provide, how much they're willing to sacrifice. But that's not attraction, that's servitude. And servitude kills desire. Think about it. If you're constantly dropping everything to answer her calls, rearranging your schedule to see her, flooding her with compliments every chance you get, what's left for her to actually fight for? You've already handed her the trophy without making her run the race. The strongest men flip this on its head. They don't give away their attention like candy. They don't rush to prove themselves. They know their value, and they let her feel the weight of earning it. This doesn't mean being cold or cruel. It means being selective. It means choosing her because she's earned it, not because you're afraid of losing her. That's the difference between a man she forgets and a man she obsesses over. Picture this. She cancels on you last minute. Most guys would get angry, blow up her phone, or worse, beg to reschedule. But the man she can't stop thinking about, he simply shrugs, goes on with his night, and doesn't even mention it the next time they talk. Why? Because his life is already full. Because he doesn't need her to feel complete. That nonchalance, that quiet indifference drives her crazy. Not because you're playing games, but because it signals that you're rare. You're not desperate. You're not grasping for crumbs. You're standing firm in your worth. And here's the kicker. Once she realizes you're not chasing, that you're not begging, that you're not another man trapped in her orbit, she starts competing. She starts leaning in more, testing less, investing more. Suddenly, she's fighting for your time, your attention, your approval. And that's when you've won, not by chasing her, but by holding your frame long enough for her to chase you. But let's not sugarcoat it. Holding frame isn't easy. It's brutal. It means sitting in the discomfort of silence, resisting the urge to reach out, trusting that if she's really interested, she'll come forward. It means being okay with losing her rather than losing yourself. And most men can't stomach that. Most men crumble. That's why most men never experience women fighting for them. So let me ask you, have you ever found yourself chasing harder the moment she started pulling away? Have you ever sent that desperate message only to feel embarrassed later? And what's scarier for you, losing her or losing your self-respect? Some women will never say it out loud, but the truth is they're addicted to the chase just as much as men are. Except their version of the chase looks different. They don't chase with flowers, gifts, or constant texts. They chase with curiosity, with obsession, with the gnawing thought of, why isn't he giving me what every other guy would? And that's where your power lies. Not in what you give, but in what you withhold. Think about this. Every time you rush to answer her message within seconds, you rob her of that delicious tension of waiting. Every time you say yes to plans even when you're busy, you rob her of the thrill of wondering whether she's truly a priority. Every time you drown her in compliments, you rob her of the satisfaction of earning your admiration. And without that tension, without that uncertainty, she has nothing to fight for. Let's get brutally practical. Say she sends you a dry, one-word response after you poured effort into a message. The average guy panics. He doubles down, sending more words, trying harder to spark a conversation. He starts performing, auditioning for her attention like a man desperate for a role in her movie. And she gets bored. But the man she remembers? He reads that dry response, and instead of scrambling to fix it, he mirrors the energy, or he walks away entirely. Because a woman who isn't investing doesn't get more from him. That's how you train her, without saying a word, to bring her best if she wants to keep your attention. Here's another scenario. She posts a story on social media designed to get your reaction. Maybe it's a revealing picture, maybe it's her out with other guys, maybe it's some quote about knowing your worth. Most men bite the bait instantly. They comment, they react, they DM, they spiral into jealousy. That's the reaction she's hoping for, because it confirms that you're hooked. But the man who holds his frame doesn't flinch. He doesn't react at all. He knows that validation is his currency, and he spends it carefully. And you know what happens next? She notices your silence. She wonders why you, of all people, aren't biting. That silence is louder than any message you could have sent. Detachment is not coldness. Don't confuse the two. Detachment is discipline. It's knowing that her beauty, her curves, her attention don't control you. It's being able to look at her with desire but not need. Because the moment you need her, you've handed over your power. And power, once given away, is nearly impossible to reclaim. I'll give you a personal story. Years ago, I was entangled with a woman who knew exactly how to pull strings. She'd disappear for days, only to reappear with a casual, "Hey stranger." And like a fool, I'd drop everything, reply instantly, and try to set up a date. I thought persistence would prove my worth, but all it did was prove my desperation. Until one day I didn't answer. Not right away, not at all. I left her message unread, went out with my friends, and lived my life. Days later, she blew up my phone. Call after call, message after message. "Why are you ignoring me?" she demanded. That's when it clicked. She wasn't used to a man not folding. She wasn't used to having to fight for space in someone else's world. And from that moment forward, the dynamic flipped. Not because I said some magic words, but because I finally stopped handing her the steering wheel. Men forget this. Attention is your most valuable weapon. Not money, not looks, not even charm. Attention. Because where your attention goes, your energy flows. And the woman who has to fight for your attention feels more invested, more intrigued, more alive in your presence. That's why she'll compete. That's why she'll strategize. That's why she'll fight for you. But there's a cost. To hold that power, you have to be okay with losing her. That's the paradox. You only win when you're willing to walk away. And that terrifies most men, because deep down, they're afraid they can't replace her. They believe she's the best they'll ever get. That scarcity mindset is the leash around their neck. But when you finally believe in your own abundance, when you truly see yourself as the prize, the leash breaks. And the freedom that comes with that? That's when women start competing for you. So tell me, have you ever caught yourself over-investing in someone who gave you little in return? What happened when you stopped? And do you honestly believe you're the prize in your relationships, or are you secretly terrified of losing the one woman giving you attention? What would you think if I told you that the reason most men never experience women fighting for them is because they've been trained, since childhood, to believe that love is earned through overgiving? Think back. How many times were you told, if you like a girl, you have to show her, you have to make the first move, you have to work hard to win her heart? That conditioning creates a dangerous mindset. One where you're always auditioning, always proving, always bending. And when you carry that into adulthood, women can smell it on you. They can sense that desperation, that need to be chosen. And here's the cold truth. Women don't fight for men who are begging to be picked. They fight for men who already know they're the prize. You've probably felt it before. That subtle shift when you like someone more than they like you. Suddenly, every interaction feels like a test. You're overthinking every word, every text, every pause in conversation. If she takes too long to reply, your stomach drops. If she's distant on a date, you replay the night 100 times in your head, looking for where you messed up. That mental prison, that obsessive need for approval, is exactly what kills attraction. Because the moment you pedestalize her, she feels it. And what's freely given loses its value. Here's the part most men miss. Women are not drawn to your effort. They're drawn to your energy. And your energy is strongest when you're centered, detached, and fully living your life outside of her. A man who texts, "I'll see if I can make it, I've got a packed week," radiates more power than a man who says, "Yes, whatever works for you." One communicates abundance, the other scarcity. One sparks her desire to prove herself, the other signals she already owns you. Let's put this into real practice. Say you meet a woman and the chemistry is undeniable. Most guys go into overdrive. Constant messages, excessive compliments, instant availability. But the man who makes her fight for him? He matches her energy, not exceeds it. If she takes hours to respond, he doesn't fire back within seconds. If she gives effort, he acknowledges it, but he never rewards minimal investment with maximum energy. That balance forces her to step up. It flips the game. Suddenly she's planning dates, she's reaching out first, she's wondering, what do I have to do to keep his attention? The beauty of this approach is that it reveals her true interest. A woman who genuinely wants you will rise to the challenge when she sees you're not a pushover. She'll fight harder. But a woman who was only toying with you will vanish the moment you stop feeding her ego. And that's not a loss, that's clarity. Why waste your time on someone who never intended to invest anyway? Every silence, every pullback, every test becomes a filter. It separates the women who are truly drawn to you from those who are just killing time. Now let's address the internal battle. Because holding this frame doesn't just challenge her, it challenges you. You'll feel the urge to chase, to prove, to reassure her that you're interested. That's your ego, terrified of rejection, desperate for validation. But every time you resist, every time you sit in the discomfort of silence instead of reaching out, you get stronger. You start realizing that you don't need her response to feel whole. That discipline, over time, builds an aura she can't ignore. It's not arrogance, it's groundedness. And groundedness is rare. Rare is what women fight for. Picture it. She tries to pull away, expecting you to collapse into pursuit. Instead, you lean back, focused on your goals, your mission, your life. You go to the gym, you work on your craft, you enjoy your friends, you don't chase shadows. That shift in focus does two things. First, it protects your sanity. Second, it makes her realize she's not the center of your universe. And that realization, it either drives her closer or it exposes her lack of interest. Either way, you win. This is the uncomfortable reality most men avoid. You can't be both the chaser and the prize. You have to choose. And the moment you choose to be the prize, the game changes. You stop competing for her attention, and she starts competing for yours. That's when the real fight begins. Not because you manipulated her, but because you finally stopped manipulating yourself into weakness. So I'll ask you, have you ever been caught in that mental prison of overthinking every word, every text, every silence? What did it cost you in the end? And do you have the discipline to hold your frame long enough for her to actually fight for you, even if it means losing her forever? Some women know exactly how to hook you without ever lifting a finger. They don't chase you directly. They set the bait and watch you chase yourself into exhaustion. She'll give you just enough attention to keep you invested, then pull it away to see how desperate you really are. She'll say things like, "I'm just so busy lately," while still posting pictures out at dinners, parties, or with friends. She wants you to feel the gap, to panic, to push harder. And most men do. They respond with long paragraphs, last-minute gifts, grand gestures, thinking they're closing the distance. In reality, they're only tightening the noose around their own neck. Why does this work? Because attention is addictive. When she gives you a taste, that warm smile, that quick laugh, that flirty text, your brain lights up like a slot machine hitting a jackpot. Then, when she withholds it, you start craving the hit. That's when you start chasing. That's when she knows she has control. This is the exact dynamic that drains men of their power. Because the more you invest without reciprocity, the more you communicate. My worth is tied to your approval. But imagine the opposite. Imagine when she withdraws, you don't chase. You don't panic. You don't start proving yourself. You remain steady. She expects your energy to rise the moment hers falls, but it doesn't. You stay centered, calm, indifferent. That throws her entire strategy into chaos. Instead of watching you scramble for her attention, she's left wondering why you aren't reacting. She's left questioning her own value in your world. That's when her curiosity turns into effort. That's when she starts fighting to win you back. Let me make this tactical. If she cancels plans at the last minute and gives you a weak excuse, don't argue. Don't demand an explanation. Don't try to reschedule. Simply say, no problem, and go live your life. Post nothing, send nothing, give nothing. Let her sit with the silence. Because silence is the mirror that forces her to see the weight of her actions. If she values you, she'll feel that gap and come back stronger. If she doesn't, she'll disappear. And she just saved you from months of wasted energy. Another tactic: never reward inconsistency with more effort. If she pulls back, mirror that pullback. If she invests, reward that investment with presence and warmth. This balance forces her to meet you halfway. It trains her that your attention is not free, it's earned. And here's the thing: women respect what they earn far more than what's handed to them. A compliment means more when she had to work for it. Your time means more when she had to clear her schedule to get it. That earned validation becomes the glue that keeps her chasing. Here's where most men sabotage themselves. They confuse boundaries with games. This isn't about playing cold or pretending you don't care. It's about aligning your actions with your standards. If you say you value respect, then stop tolerating flakiness. If you say you value effort, then stop rewarding laziness. Boundaries are attractive because they signal strength. Weakness, on the other hand, is repulsive. And nothing screams weakness louder than a man who keeps giving more when she's giving less. Think about a time you gave everything to a woman who barely lifted a finger for you. Remember how drained you felt? Remember how frustrated you became, wondering why nothing was ever enough? That's the cost of chasing someone who isn't fighting for you. But when you flip that script, when you stop chasing, when you stop folding, when you stop rewarding mediocrity, suddenly the cost shifts to her. She's the one feeling the gap, the discomfort, the uncertainty. And that's exactly what makes her fight for your presence. The truth is, most men fear that if they stop chasing, she'll leave. And sometimes she will. But that's not a loss, that's a blessing. Because the only women who stay when you stop chasing are the ones who were genuinely interested to begin with. That's how you filter out the emotional tourists from the women who are serious about you. It's not rejection, it's selection. And selection is power. So I want you to be honest. How many times have you rewarded a woman's distance with more attention? How many times have you excused flaky behavior just to keep her around? And do you realize that every time you did, you taught her she didn't need to fight for you at all? Some women will fight for you the moment they sense you're not already theirs. It's a strange paradox. The more you give yourself away, the less they want you. The less you give, the more they start strategizing to win you over. Why? Because human desire is wired around challenge. Anything that feels too easy, too available, too guaranteed loses its shine. And most men fail because they remove every ounce of challenge from the dynamic. They suffocate her with access, with validation, with attention, until there's nothing left for her to earn. I want you to imagine this clearly. A man texts her good morning every single day without fail. At first, she smiles. Maybe it's cute. Maybe it feels sweet. But over time, those messages lose their power. They're not special anymore. They're routine. She doesn't have to wonder if he'll reach out. She knows he will. Contrast that with the man who doesn't text her every day. Maybe he's focused on his work, his training, his own mission. When he does message her, it feels intentional. It feels chosen. And she feels the difference. She starts wondering, why didn't he text today? What's on his mind? Who else has his attention? That curiosity is what makes her fight harder to secure her place in his world. Here's the secret. Women don't just want love, they want to feel like they earned it. They want to feel that your attention is valuable, that your validation is scarce. And when you hold that standard, they rise to meet it. When you drop it, they drop their effort too. Let's break this down into practical, everyday moves. When she flakes on you, don't reschedule right away. Let her take the initiative to bring it up again. When she gives short, lazy replies, don't match that with paragraphs. Match energy. If she's showing up halfway, don't show up all the way. Let her feel the difference between when she's invested and when she's not. This isn't punishment, it's calibration. And when she does show effort, when she reaches out first, when she plans something, when she opens up emotionally, that's when you reward. That's when you give her warmth, presence, attention. This push-pull dynamic is not about playing games. It's about establishing balance. It's about teaching her that your world has standards, and only those who invest get to reap the benefits. Now let's address the elephant in the room. The fear of loss. Most men don't play this game because they're terrified of losing her. They think, if I don't chase, if I don't pour energy, she'll find someone else. And maybe she will. But here's the harsh reality. If the only thing keeping her around is your overinvestment, she was never truly yours to begin with. You were renting her attention, not owning her desire. And rented attention always comes with an eviction notice. When you accept the possibility of loss, you unlock your greatest weapon: indifference. Indifference doesn't mean you don't care. It means you're not controlled. It means you want her, but you don't need her. And that balance is what makes women obsessed. Because women don't want to be your oxygen. They want to be your fire. And fire burns brighter when it's fed by choice, not by desperation. I'll tell you something most men will never believe until they live it. The moment you stop being afraid to lose her, that's the moment she's most afraid to lose you. That's when she fights. That's when she invests. That's when she starts chasing you. So ask yourself, how many times have you smothered the challenge by giving her everything too soon? How many women have slipped away because they never had to fight for your attention? And most importantly, are you ready to stop being afraid of loss and finally see what happens when she is the one afraid of losing you? There's a brutal truth most men never want to face. Women don't lose interest because you're not good enough. They lose interest because you make yourself too available, too predictable, too easy to win. You strip away the very tension that makes attraction burn. Desire lives in uncertainty, in curiosity, in the unknown. And yet, what do most men do the moment they like a woman? They flood her with attention, they over-explain their feelings, they show up at her door ready to prove themselves. They hand her the ending to a story she hasn't even decided if she wants to start. Think about this in simple terms. If she knows exactly where you stand from day one, if she knows you're not going anywhere no matter what she does, then what's left for her to wonder about? Nothing. And when there's nothing to wonder about, there's nothing to fight for. That's why you see women obsess over the man who doesn't immediately bow to their charm. The man who holds his space. The man who makes her question, does he even like me as much as I like him? That question is fuel. That question is the fire. Here's where strategy matters. The goal isn't to withhold affection forever or to act cold just to look strong. The goal is to balance. To let her feel the weight of your absence just as much as she feels the warmth of your presence. When she invests, you show up. When she pulls back, you don't chase. When she gives more, you give more. This dynamic creates polarity, and polarity creates desire. Without it, you're just another nice guy who suffocates her with certainty. Picture this. You're dating a woman, and she suddenly becomes distant. Most guys go into emergency mode. They text more, call more, demand clarity. They turn into detectives, reading between lines, asking, is something wrong? And in doing so, they push her further away. But the man who commands respect, he notices the shift, and instead of panicking, he pulls back too. He mirrors her energy, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. He lets her feel the gap. And 9 times out of 10, that space is what pulls her back in. She realizes she's not the only one with options. She realizes your world doesn't stop spinning without her. That realization makes her fight to reclaim her place in it. And this isn't just about women. It's about you. It's about retraining your own psychology. Because if you can't sit with silence, if you can't stand the discomfort of not knowing, if you can't resist the urge to chase every time she pulls back, then you'll never hold the power. You'll always be the one reacting instead of leading. And leadership, in dating and in life, is what women are wired to respond to. Not control, not arrogance, but grounded leadership. The ability to stay calm, stay centered, and stay true to your standards, no matter what storm she throws your way. I'll give you an example. A friend of mine was seeing a woman who would constantly test him. She'd flirt with other guys in front of him, cancel plans last minute, throw subtle jabs at his confidence. Every time he'd try to argue his worth. He'd defend himself, explain himself, fight for her approval, and every time she lost more respect for him. Until one day, he stopped. She pulled the same stunt, canceled on him for the 3rd time, and he simply said, "No worries. I'll see you when I see you." He went on with his life. No drama, no begging, no fight. 2 days later, she was at his door with tears in her eyes, desperate for his attention. Not because he manipulated her, but because he finally stopped letting her control the frame. That's what most men miss. The frame is everything. If she controls the frame, she controls the dynamic. If you control it, she responds to you. And the way you control it is not through force, but through indifference. Through the quiet strength of a man who knows his value and refuses to sell it cheap. So tell me, have you ever lost respect for yourself by over-explaining, over-chasing, or over-proving? How did it feel afterward? And what would change in your relationships if you finally mastered the art of silence, the power of indifference, and the discipline to let her fight for you instead of the other way around? Some women will never admit this out loud, but they respect the man who makes them work for his attention far more than the one who hands it over without question. Respect is the seed of desire. Without respect, attraction dies. And yet, countless men trade their respect away for scraps of attention. They confuse pleasing her with keeping her, and then they wonder why she drifts. Let me paint a picture you've probably lived before. You meet a woman you really like, and in the early days, she's giving you energy. She's laughing at your jokes, she's texting back fast, she's making time for you. But then, little by little, she starts pulling away. Maybe her responses get shorter. Maybe she takes hours to reply. Maybe she cancels plans with a vague excuse. In that moment, most men panic. They try harder, they send longer messages, they ask, "What's wrong?" They think effort will fix distance. But the truth is, effort in the wrong direction kills attraction. Because what she's really doing is testing the frame. She wants to know, will you crumble? Will you beg? Will you chase? Or will you stand firm in your value? The man who stands firm does something radical. He doesn't chase, he doesn't punish, he doesn't play detective. He simply continues living his life with the same confidence, the same consistency, the same self-respect as before. He lets her feel the gap her distance creates. And when she feels that gap, when she realizes he won't collapse into neediness, she starts moving back toward him. Not because he forced her, but because he showed her something rare. A man she can't control. Now here's the tactical breakdown. When she pulls back, you mirror. If she replies in hours, you reply in hours. If she puts in 50% effort, you give 50% back. If she disappears completely, you disappear too. Not in anger, not in revenge, but in discipline. You refuse to fund laziness with effort. This creates what I call a value vacuum. The moment you stop filling the space, she feels it. And when she feels it, she's faced with a choice. Step up or step out. Either way, you win. Because the ones who step out were never truly invested. And the ones who step up, they're the ones who will start fighting for you. And don't be fooled. Fighting doesn't always look like big dramatic gestures. Sometimes it's subtle. It's her initiating plans. It's her asking, "Why haven't I heard from you?" It's her bringing more energy to the table because she realizes she can't coast on your effort alone. These small shifts are the real signs of interest, and you'll never see them if you're constantly over-investing. But to hold this frame, you have to master something most men never do: comfort with loss. Because yes, when you stop chasing, some women will disappear. And that's the point. You need them to. Because only then do you clear the space for women who actually value you. Holding on to someone who doesn't fight for you is the fastest way to destroy your confidence. Letting them go is the fastest way to reclaim it. It's like this. Imagine you're holding a rope, and on the other end, she's pulling away. Every time she steps back, you grip harder, pull harder, exhaust yourself to keep the connection. But what happens if you let go? She either falls back into your arms, realizing she wanted it too, or she walks away completely, revealing she was never yours to begin with. Both outcomes are better than slowly strangling yourself with the rope. This is why women fight for the man who can let go. Because he's not afraid of emptiness. He's not afraid of silence. He's not afraid of losing her. That fearlessness is magnetic. It tells her that his world is already full, with purpose, with friends, with goals, with self-respect, and that if she wants a place in it, she has to bring value. She has to fight for it. So let me ask you, how many times have you held that rope too tightly, trying to drag someone back who was already slipping away? What did it cost you in energy, in pride, in respect for yourself? And are you ready to finally drop the rope and see who actually runs back toward you when the fight is no longer one-sided? Some women can sense instantly whether you're a man who values himself or a man desperate for approval. They don't even need words. They read it in how you move, how you text, how you respond to pressure. And the difference between the man she plays with and the man she fights for comes down to one thing: your frame. If your frame is solid, she adjusts to you. If it's weak, you adjust to her. And every time you adjust to her at the cost of yourself, you teach her she doesn't need to fight for you at all. Think about when you've been in that situation where she suddenly says, "I'm not sure what I want right now." That's a test. She wants to see if you'll cling tighter, if you'll beg for clarity, if you'll try to convince her why she should choose you. Most men fail right there. They start listing their qualities, they make promises, they plead. And all she feels is repulsion. Because she doesn't want to be convinced. She wants to feel that you're the man she doesn't want to lose. And the only way she feels that is if you can hear those words, "I'm not sure," and calmly reply, "That's fine. Take your time. I know what I want, and I won't wait forever." Then you walk. That simple act shifts the power back into your hands. Suddenly, she's the one facing loss. Suddenly, she's the one who has to decide if she's willing to let you go. Here's the thing. Loss is the most powerful motivator in human psychology. We're more afraid of losing what we already have than we are excited to gain something new. Women are no different. When she feels you slipping away, not because you're playing games, but because you genuinely value yourself, that's when she starts fighting. That's when she texts more, calls more, initiates more. That's when she starts asking questions like, "Do you still like me?" Not because she needs the answer, but because she's terrified of losing the man who doesn't need her to breathe. And this isn't just about dating. This is about every area of your life. When you know your value, people treat you differently. Friends respect your time more. Colleagues respect your boundaries more. Strangers sense your confidence before you even open your mouth. You don't have to prove it, you radiate it. And women, more than anyone, are drawn to that energy. They want to feel they're stepping into the world of a man who's already whole, already fulfilled, already steady, not a man who's begging them to complete him. Now let's talk strategy. You need to start practicing what I call emotional scarcity. Not faking it, not withholding love to punish, but simply not overgiving what hasn't been earned. For example, stop texting her when you're bored. Stop replying within seconds when she takes hours. Stop complimenting her on things she hasn't shown effort in. Instead, let her earn those things. Compliment her when she shows genuine kindness. Give your time when she respects yours. Reward her effort with presence. That's how you condition her to associate your attention with her investment. That's how you make her fight for more. The hardest part of this isn't the strategy. The hardest part is the discipline. Because everything in you will want to chase when she pulls away. Everything in you will want to prove yourself when she doubts you. Everything in you will want to hold tighter when she loosens her grip. But that discipline, that refusal to collapse, is the very thing that makes her respect you. It's the very thing that makes her realize she can't coast. It's the very thing that makes her decide, "I need to fight for him before I lose him." I'll tell you something you need to tattoo into your brain. The man who is willing to walk away always wins. Always. Because he cannot be manipulated. He cannot be controlled. He cannot be strung along. He either gets the real thing or he gets his freedom. Both are victories. And women feel that. They know when they're with a man who can't be bent. That's the man they chase. That's the man they fight for. So tell me, how many times have you collapsed the moment she pulled back, thinking effort would save it? How would things have turned out differently if you had simply walked instead? And are you ready, truly ready, to become the man who can look a woman in the eye, smile, and say, "If you want me, show me. If not, I'll be fine"? Some women will fight harder for you than they've ever fought for anyone else, but only when they feel the one thing they rarely feel with men today, the risk of losing you. You see, in the modern dating world, most women are surrounded by men who are ready to hand over everything. Constant attention, endless validation, unconditional availability. She knows she doesn't have to do much to keep them around. That's why she doesn't value them. But when she meets a man who doesn't fold, who doesn't sell himself cheap, who doesn't hand over his soul just because she's pretty, she can't ignore him. He lives in her mind. He becomes the standard. And that's when she fights. Think about it. A woman can have a dozen guys liking her photos, sliding into her DMs, begging for her time. But the one guy she obsesses over, the one who didn't flinch, the one who didn't react, the one who made her wonder, why isn't he chasing me like everyone else? That curiosity turns into desire. That desire turns into effort. She starts dressing better when she sees you. She starts reaching out first. She starts pushing harder to prove herself. And none of it is because you begged her. It's because you didn't. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The more you try to win a woman, the less she values you. The more you try to keep her, the faster she slips away. But the moment you stop trying to win her, the moment you stop needing to keep her, that's when she wakes up. That's when she realizes you're not like the rest. That's when she realizes she could lose you. And loss is the greatest motivator of all. Now let's get tactical. You want women to fight for you? Start by fighting for yourself. Build a life so full, so rich, so purposeful that she has to work to be a part of it. Stop rearranging your plans every time she calls. If you've got work, stick to your work. If you've got the gym, go train. If you've got time with your boys, don't cancel it just to see her. When she realizes you're not willing to drop everything for her, she starts treating your time like gold. And when your time feels like gold, she'll fight to earn it. Next, control your validation. Too many men give away endless compliments, endless reassurance, endless approval, and then wonder why it doesn't land. Here's why. Validation only has value when it's scarce. If you tell her she's beautiful every 5 minutes, it becomes background noise. But if you only say it when she's genuinely put effort into herself, it hits harder. If you only praise her when she's really earned it, she'll crave that praise. And to get it, she'll fight harder. And finally, never let her disrespect slide. The moment she cancels last minute, flakes without explanation, or tests you with attitude, you've got a choice. Fold or enforce. Most men fold. They tolerate it. They make excuses for her. And every time they do, they teach her she doesn't need to bring her best. But the man she respects? He doesn't yell, he doesn't argue, he doesn't chase. He simply withdraws. He lets her feel the weight of her own actions. And if she values him, she'll adjust. If she doesn't, she'll fade. Either way, he wins, because he never sacrifices his standard. That's the essence of power in relationships. The man who is willing to lose her is the man who makes her fight to keep him. He's not afraid of silence. He's not afraid of walking away. He knows he's the prize and he lives like it. And women can feel that energy. They know when they're with a man who doesn't need them. And that's exactly the kind of man they don't want to lose. So let me ask you straight. How many times have you lost yourself trying to keep a woman? How much of your pride, your focus, your time have you thrown away chasing someone who wasn't fighting for you? And are you finally ready to live like the man she has to chase, the man she has to fight for, the man she knows she can't afford to lose? She didn't break you. She revealed what you were too afraid to protect.